Hello, welcome back to Force Strategy Gaming. Going to be commentating another game for you today. Today's game is going to be between LiquidRet, our blue Zerg player, and the red Protoss player is oGsMC. Since he's just labeled OGS here, though, that is what I will call him. So OGS versus Ret here on Xel'Naga Caverns. Should be a really good game. Let's talk about the map before we get into any of the fun and excitement. We're going to be seeing a fairly safe expansion here from both players. Should be fairly safe and comfortable to move into that. Also relatively safe and comfortable to move into these as well. You of course have to go through some destructible rocks to easily defend or even to get up this one, but then beyond that is very difficult to expand. Trying to expand over here becomes a little bit problematic with this wide open ramp, pretty much inviting your opponent in for a house party essentially. A little bit easier for say Terran players who can get up a planetary fortress, but beyond that, you know, having to get up defenses like photon cannons and sunkens is kind of just a little bit of a pain in the butt. Or spine crawlers, they're not sunkens. I keep going back to StarCraft 1 every now and then. I'm not sure why that happens. But so yeah, pretty good map for longer games in all honesty, because it can be very macro friendly. Something else to note about the map is there are some wide open spaces, but there's also a lot of choke points. There's a lot of high grounds that can be taken advantage of and exploited essentially. Now we don't see enough players, in my opinion, don't see enough players take advantage of this particular high ground here. I think it's a really good spot to say have a Colossus set up here, or for Terran players have some siege tanks set up here. That can be very effective, and it's something maybe you should try in your own game, so we can see some more games like that. So starting off here, we are seeing LiquidRet going for a one base opening, of course, and as a response, OGS is going to be denying him exit of his base by dropping down these two pylons. I think Ret heard those be building, so he heard those be building, yo. He heard those building, so he decided to pull back and get full vision of it, and now he is fully aware. Wow, what a pain in the butt. I'm sure that's what he's saying right now. Also, a cannon going down. OGS being incredibly offensive here, trying to basically contain his opponent for as long as possible. And this is going to do a fairly good job of it. I'm not sure exactly what Ret is going to intend on doing here. I'm not sure exactly what his plan is. And are we going to see him push in? He might try to do that trick where I think essentially the way it works, if you put your probe here and you try to build a cannon like right next to the probe, it's going to force your probe to run inside of his base. And I think he might be doing that. And there it goes. Look at that. What a huge pain in the butt. So is he going to be trying to drop down some cannons? No, he's just trying to get a scout first, see exactly what's going on. He's seeing that roach warren. So in knowing roaches are going down, is he going to respond by placing down another cannon? That would be not the worst idea in the world. He could do some additional damage with it. I don't think he's going to, though. He's just continuing to scout around. Let's take a look inside of his base. That gateway finally coming down. He has, of course, kept up this production. Pretty interesting start to this game, though. I definitely didn't expect this. I haven't pre-screened this game. I just was told it was a good one. I got some really high ratings on the replay site that I got it from. For those of you who are wondering as well, I do have a lot of players kind of ask me, well, where do you get the replays from? All of those links are always in the video description, so if you just look below, there's always going to be a link to the website that the replay came from, so you can take a look for yourself. Looks like OGS is going to be trying to run around and try to get an additional scout, see what his opponent Ret has planned, but denied by this queen and the roach, and the roach should have the range to take down that pylon here. I know I said that with kind of a question mark at the end of my voice, but I'm pretty positive that he's got the range to do that. We'll see, though. OGS could have some ridiculous Gosu placement here, but no, they do in fact have the range, so it's going to be not much of a problem. Also coming down with this additional pylon, so once these pylons die, he does of course want this cannon to still be effective, and it's not going to be effective for that long, though. Lots of roaches out here for Ret. Back in OGS's base, what are we seeing? We're seeing that warp gate research come up. He was of course severely set back from that containment, and this could be a little bit problematic. There are a lot of roaches on the board right now for Ret, and Ret is going to push out for an attack, no doubt. And what does OGS have? Well, he's got this one stalker and he's got this zealot, and that's it. So not quite enough to deal with an aggressive push from his opponent, especially a one base push. That's something else to realize. You know, if you're against a Zerg player who's playing off of one base, this is going to allow them to be very, very aggressive early in the game. Of course, when they go for that fast expansion, it's not quite as much the case because they have dumped resources into the expansion. But if he's on one base for the first 5 or so minutes of the game, he's going to be able to have a lot of roaches and a fairly strong army early on. And again, you can see OGS was set so far back from spending spending all those resources on those 3 pylons and a photon cannon. I almost want to say that that 3rd pylon was a little bit of a mistake. I think that he just invested too many resources into that containment. Warp gate's finally coming in though, so we'll see if he's going to be able to warp in enough units to defend against this. Coming out with some additional stalkers, yes he is, and he should be all set. So just in time, that warp gate research finished. Basically, if Red had gotten inside of OGS's base any earlier, even 30 seconds earlier, he could have done a pretty hefty amount of damage. But unfortunately for Red, OGS was able to finish that warp gate research and get in those stalkers. And those stalkers, of course, are going to have not much of a problem dealing with those roaches. Seeing some stalker micro as well, pulling back. Is he going to push out to try to be aggressive? He is, of course, going to have to worry about Zergling surrounds. And in response to the possibility of that push, we are seeing a lot of Zerglings coming out from Ret because he knows that that's going to do pretty well against these stalkers. A bunch of sentries coming out though, so those force fields are something he's going to have to worry about, basically stopping the Zerglings from getting us around. He's moving around with the Zerglings. Ret's going to be trying to do something funny here, I think. Looks like he's planning something at the very least. Overlord spotting over here, not going to see very much. All that pretty little background there, that's really nice. Expansion finally up, some more roaches at the front here. What else is he doing? Going to be getting that upgrade, the speed here for his roaches. That's of course very effective. Also getting the speed for the Zerglings. Zerglings going to be moving in, looking for an expansion, most likely. That's probably what they're here for. That's the point. And he does see that expansion, decides to push back. Is going to have to run away though without the Meta Ball boost, a little bit too slow, getting force fielded and losing a lot of those Zerglings. Or not as much as I thought. Wow, he did get away with a fairly decent amount. Very lucky there by Ret, and I'm pretty surprised that he managed to get away with that many surviving units. That force field leaving that little bit of an opening space there allowed him to basically eke through. Meta Ball boost finally just finished that roach speed, just about finished as well. Now that this expansion is up, LiquidRet should start to pull ahead when it comes to economy. He just needs to make sure he defends against any super aggressive gateway push from his opponent. We can see at this point no robotics yet, so it's just going purely gateway. What does this mean? It means he probably plans on being aggressive. He's got 4 gates up. He's got this forge coming out with that weapon level 1 upgrade, trying to push out with some roaches. He sees the bulk of that army though. He knows it's a little bit too much for him to handle at this point, so he is of course pulling back. Some more roaches coming up to help reinforce. Are we seeing any spine crawlers down? No, not yet. He's not too worried as of this moment. Being near that Xel'Naga tower, he's going to know as soon as that push does come. And yeah, this is, I don't know, it's going to be a little bit too much. I think Ret is a little bit too eager here to engage, basically. Especially since that level 1 upgrade is just about finished. He's going to really start to have a hard time. Force field's going down, but not losing much roaches. So, you know, OGS has been doing a fairly good job of dropping the force fields, but he hasn't been taking full advantage of it in the fact that Ret has been getting away many of his units. Coming out with a bunch of Zerglings right now as well. Looks like Ret is going to be trying to push out fairly shortly. Nothing else really going on inside of his base. We're having a Stargate come out here for OGS, so he does plan on transitioning. Maybe going to be seeing some Phoenixes here. That research just about finished. I was wrong with the Phoenix though. Void Rays are coming out, spreading out the units here. Good job by Ret. That's basically what you want to do if an engagement comes down. If OGS's units come down right now, he's going to be able to hit from multiple angles, and that's basically what you want to do as Zerg. Moving across the 2 different paths, trying to prevent getting destroyed by force fields, basically. Force fields going down though, doing a good job of blocking pretty much all of those Zerglings. And wow, good force fields here by OGS. We're going to take a lot of roach loss here. It's a little bit unfortunate for Ret. Now that this Void Ray is out too, these roaches are pretty much nullified. Now the thing to realize though is that they do still a lot of damage, so he might still be able to get a lot of damage done. Those force fields were a little bit devastating though for Ret. You can see that complete T, or that L shape that he basically formed that denied the surround from Ret on OGS's units. So that's very unfortunate for Ret, but still doing a lot of damage, taking out many of those stalkers. Also going to be killing some probes here as well. Of course, now he has to start preparing for this Void Ray because he doesn't have anything else to deal with it. Maybe is he going to consider coming out with some Hydralistan, or possibly even going with the Spire? But still, at this moment, he's just pretty much going to rely on the Queens. Continuing to be aggressive. Is he going to take down this expansion? I did not expect that. Sorry for staying away from the damage that was being dealt to that, although it was pretty much continuous, and we did see it fall, so I guess it's okay. That Void Ray, again, he's going to be able to deal with that with Queens fairly well. Coming out with some additional Zerglings, 20 more Zerglings being produced. Hydralistan coming out as well. That's going to help deal with those Void Rays. Also, Hydralisks, of course, are pretty good against gateway units. Now, I can't understate the fact that taking down that expansion was huge for Ret. That really allowed Rhett to pull ahead. That's really good that he was able to take that down, and that's really unfortunate, of course, for OGS. That's, you know, he definitely doesn't want that to have happened, but it did, and there's really nothing he can do about it at this point. Zergling's kind of chilling out in the corner over here. Also, some other Zerglings over here trying to see if that expansion's going back up. They are, of course, going to see it. OGS has no choice but to go for the expansion and try to put it back up. He would just be too far behind if he tried to stay on one base still. Expanding is pretty much vital. More Zerglings moving up. They were trying to do some damage, trying to see if they could eke into the main base, but that, of course, did not happen. Back here inside of Rhett's base, what do we have going on? We're seeing that Groove Spine research come up. Also, the Hydralisk coming out. 2 additional extractors coming down. That's this expansion. Inside of OGS's base, some more units being produced. Zerglings, again, still chilling out in the front here and over on the side. Not a lot of units for OGS right now. Denying that expansion, like I said, was absolutely huge. It really hurt his economy. OGS is going to be trying to move out with his Void Ray. Another Void Ray over here, but again, those Queens are going to do just fine against it. And as soon as those Hydralisks come up, which they're just about up, they should have no problem fending off this early game Void Ray force. Now, once, you know, we start to see like 20 or 30 Void Rays, it becomes a little bit of a different story. But you don't tend to see that in professional games for one reason and one reason only, because harassment's pretty constant. If you can harass your opponent constantly and mess up their economy, you're never going to get pushed out against with 20 Void Rays. They can't afford it. It would never happen. Doing a great job of spreading creep here. Rhett wants to get as much vision as possible, try to see what's going on. Also, these Overlords over here, he's going to see any push coming from that direction. Void Ray is still kind of just meandering about. At this point, you can see both players kind of just macroing up, not doing much else besides that. Zergling's still in the center, trying to get a good idea and trying to catch any units that try to push out against him. And Spire coming down over here for Rhett, so he's preparing for a transition into air units. Is it going to be Mutalisk, or is he going to go all the way up to Broodlords? Dun dun dun. Probably not, though. A little bit too early for that. Is trying to come down with this expansion, though. Getting attacked by these Void Rays. He's going to lose this unless he can get his Hydralisk down there. That is enough Hydralisk to deal with it, but is he going to get there in time? Rhett realizes the answer to that question was no. Cancels the expansion rather than losing it. That, of course, is the wise decision. Void Ray is going to be sitting up on this high ground. Not sure if Rhett's going to have the vision. He should, though. I don't think the Void Rays have far enough range to shoot from this point. They, of course, do not. So with those Hydralisks, he's going to have no problem. I don't even think OGS is going to engage with this. He just realizes there's no way it's not going to happen. Lots of forces at the front of OGS's base. These Zerglings running around are pretty much not doing much of anything. They're not going to be able to. There's no way they're going to break that force, that small amount of Zerglings. Again, both players still continuing to macro up. Thermal Lance, so we're going to be seeing some Colossi coming out for OGS. Zerglings running into the middle line, catching that moment of opportunity to kill off a couple of probes. They may have gotten 1 or 2, not much more, but still every little victory counts. And OGS is deciding it's time to move to the center of the map. This could be a little bit of a dangerous move, especially with these Zerglings still back here, and this is why, as you can see, going to be moving in here, trying to do some damage, trying to pick off some probes. What are they doing first, though? No, so they're just going to be running, trying to get in the main base here. They're going to do some damage. Force moving down for OGS, trying to deny this expansion. Hydralis and Roaches, we'll see how this engagement goes. With no Colossus on the board, Hydras and Roaches will do pretty well against those gateway units. Zerglings still in the base of OGS, took down the pylon, unpowering this one gateway here and the forge. Going to be trying to do some additional damage. These Zealots, of course, should do a good job of mopping them up. He wants to go in the middle line, though. Try to take out as many probes as possible. The probes going to be engaging, trying to deny that. And this Roach and Hydra army is threatening enough to push OGS back. They didn't even have to fight. It was just a matter of show me your stick, I'll show you show me your stick, I'll show you mine, and we'll see who decides to pull back. That's ridiculous. So OGS does decide to pull back. Going to be pulling forward, however, with these Void Rays, trying to do some damage. Those Hydralisks are a little bit too threatening, though. He does decide to pull back, spreading the creep. Again, doing a great job of keeping up that vision. And OGS decides, okay, now it's time to pull out. But what is this Colossus doing back here? He definitely wants to move forward with the Colossus. Colossus is going to help him quite a bit against those Hydras and Roaches. Again, Roach and Hydra is going to do pretty well against this gateway-heavy army. He really needs those Colossus in order to be aggressive and do any push. It does look, however, that he was able to get some of that creep destroyed and deny some of that vision for his opponent here, Rhett. Rhett, in total preparation for the Colossus, is sitting on the board right now with a bunch of Corruptors. That should do pretty well. He's going to have to really be worried about his positioning, though. Doesn't want to get caught in this position. Force fields can be devastating, taking so much fire from those Colossus. Finally, the Corruptor is going to be pulling forward to try to do some damage. Is it a bit too late, though? I think it was. That is really too bad for Rhett. You know, Rhett had generally total control of this entire game, but he just lost so many of his forces because he got caught out of position and his corruptors engaged way too late on the Colossus. If he could have gotten his corruptors there in time before he took too much damage by this Colossus to his roaches and hydras, he could have done much better in that engagement. But unfortunately, like I said, that's really too bad. Rhett was doing a great job this game. He was ahead most of that game. That one engagement pretty much lost him the game. Again, what happened was he moved in his forces, he took a lot of Colossus fire, and by the time his corruptors meandered on into the fight, he had just taken too many losses. Again, if he had gotten those corruptors in a little bit earlier, or if he could have swept the corruptors maybe around on the backside and tried to take out those Colossus, he could have done much better there. So just a bad point of engagement, a bad time to engage, and he wasn't fully prepared for that. So once again, guys, this has been Force from Force Strategy Gaming. If you guys like our videos and you like what's going on here, please do go ahead and subscribe to our channel. Keep watching and keep owning, guys. Prepared for the push. I'm not sure if you knew about the Void Ray, though. So the Void Ray, again, is going to do massive damage. Once it gets charged up, it's going to be pretty much impossible for him to continue to repair anything like that. What are you doing with that Void Ray, Huck? Do some damage. There we go. So again, target finding that supply depot. Is he going to be moving into the mineral line? That's a possibility. Again, once this gets charged up, look how difficult it is. He's going to be target firing those SCVs with the stalker, so they're obviously not going to be able to repair it. But